It is the last day of SHOT Show 2025, and I have a very exciting guest with me today, Amanda Suffecool, who is a radio host. She is a member of the NRA Board of Directors, as well as a volunteer delegate with Women for Gun Rights, the group formerly known as the DC Project. Hello, Amanda. How are you?
Hi there, John.
I know that you sometimes like to refer to yourself as a woman of a certain age. That's your words, not mine.
Right.
But I want to ask you about your entrance into the world of guns. So I heard a tale that you were born with a rattle in one hand and a Ruger in the other. Tell me.
Not far from that, actually.
So tell me about gun life for Amanda.
Well, as a child, my mother taught hunter safety. My grandfather shot trap in the circuit from Vandalia, Ohio, down to Florida and back. Some of my earliest memories were actually going around with a pillowcase, picking up wads from the trap fields before plastic wads were commercially available. They were only available if you bought brand new bullets, shot them, and then the wads were in the field. And so we would go pick them up, go to my grandparents' house, wash them in a special wash machine that my grandfather had picked up at a yard sale, and then we sorted them on the ping pong table. And my father collected Ruger 357s. And so by the time my father died, he had 37 of exactly the same gun in every manufacturing variation. So anything that was made from, because the 357 was Ruger's first centerfire pistol, and so it was anything that was manufactured between 1955 and 1973. So it kind of tied the beauty of firearms and just how they are and how they look and all the design stuff to my love of manufacturing and putting things together and assembly. And so it just resonated on a lot of levels. And so our family had a lot of conversations about guns and the Second Amendment, and so dinner conversations revolved in a lot of cases around guns and collecting and gun collecting friends and just the Second Amendment and the beauty of all of that. It truly is in my DNA.
So, but okay, and that's perfect. When did you though? Was there a definitive time though where you're like, okay, I'm a gun girl. I'm in this.
Yeah, and it was unintentional. And so what had happened was I married a car guy. So I went from a gun family to a car family. And so from 1984 to 2004, my family shot. There were events periodically. You'd go to a picnic, and everybody'd go to the range, but it really wasn't the center of my world. And then I was the plant manager at a company, and I lost my job. The company did a transition. They dumped all of the entire middle management. So I'm sitting there going, okay, here I am. I'm 40 years old. What do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want to do? What do I want to be? And my brother, who I'm really, really tight with, he sees me that I'm in this quandary. I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, and at that time, Rob was very involved in community organizations, the Lions Club, the festivals that were local to the community. And so he was going to a fairs and festivals meeting. And he said, would you like to ride along? And so we actually went to the Pumpkin Festival. And so it was a couple-hour drive. And in that, I was like, I'm rolling around. I don't know what I'm at this turning point. What do I do? Where do I go? Am I my career? Am I my own person? You know that thing where you go through these questions. And he said, well, if I got to do anything at all, he said, I would open a firearms training business. And I'm like, there's no money in that. And he said, oh, yes, there is. And I said, no, there's not. And he said, oh, yes, there is. So I sat down and wrote a business plan to show him he was wrong.
How'd that go?
We got into business. So it was PrEP that Ohio was passing their concealed carry bill, and And so it all kind of went together. So we wrote a business about how to be concealed carry instructors and how to provide the best experience for students and how different students learn. And some are visual, and some want the written word, and some want the screen, and some want stories, and some want, and so providing a multimedia experience for concealed carry students is kind of how we started. And that took us down this path that the law that Ohio passed was 168 pages long. So many people in the state were like, how did you find out this? And how did you find out that? Well, because we read the law. Rob and I sat down, went through the law and said, well, what does this mean? And how does this tie to this? And, 2923.125, section G through J, what does that really mean? And where is it? And so people started asking us questions to the point that the sheriff's department called us and said, you're saying you know this. Well, how do you know this? How do you not? So it started there.
Okay, and then at one point or another, you guys owned a gun shop.
Yeah, we right in that same time period, we thought about it and said, well, if you're selling training, where do you want to sell training? You need to sell it somewhere. We found an opening at our range that there was a building, and so there had been a gun shop there at one point, and it had gone out of business. And we looked at it and said, we really don't want to be in the gun shop business, but what if we used a model and we built a gun shop like some of those? What are they? You go into, they're doing like antique malls, and you go in and there's 14 different kiosks within there that everybody owns their own kiosk.
Sure.
And it's a centralized thing. We were going to do a kiosk version gun shop, with like 4 sections, and 4 different people owned it.
They had their own little bubbles.
And everybody had their own little bubbles, and we had one centralized book, and so each person would work the store a certain number of days. And so we got 3 other partners, and they all said that they were in, and the lawyer was writing up all the paperwork, and I went and signed the contract with the landlord, and we've got it all working out, and we went to sign the paperwork, and they all folded up one by one. So here I am sitting here with a concept, no partners, and a lease for a gun shop.
You had one partner, didn't you?
Well, I just had my brother, so it was my brother and I. We were supposed to be 1/4 of this, right?
Well,
and there was supposed to be three other groups. No. So we're like, okay, what do we do? Because we don't have any money. But we had guns. So we took guns from our own collections. We took guns from our own closets. We took everything we had that we were like, okay, I can live without this one. I can live without this one. And we stocked the store with $3,000 worth of stuff from Midway and the guns from our own house. And that's how we started. And we ran a gun shop from 2004 to 2016.
Well, that's a serious clip. That's not anything to laugh at, for sure. Okay, so you said you were in manufacturing. You're an engineer, classically trained, went to school for it. What, you have some bona fides there?
Well, yeah. So you have a degree. I worked for a company that did. It was like a brain trust that they had this thing that they believed that the employees as a singular were way smarter than the company as a whole. And so they gave everybody the freedom to say 10% of your time at work, you can work on something only you believe in. Okay? The company, by the time I left, it became a multi-million-dollar company. It had been bought and sold a couple times. It was a fabulous experience, and it built catalytic converters, anything from restaurants and stores. So if you have a grill, you have a catalytic converter to make it so that all the neighbors don't get to enjoy your fried onions and hamburger smell, right? So there is that. Apple barns have catalytic converters. Jet airplanes have ozone converters. Cogeneration power plants, all the power plants have catalytic converters. We build all those things. And so,
for lack of a better term, a scrubber, right?
Well, they're
similar to?
No, it's kind of an air exchange. It is a chemical reaction. As it bounces off. This molecule bounces off the wall of that molecule, and it's a giant surface area microscopic sponge where magic happens.
So And you have a couple patents in this field.
I have it in, we were working in hydrogen generation, heat transfer stuff. So hydrogen, in order to generate hydrogen, it's really high temperature. And then in the high temperature stuff, you also have to make sure that you're gathering everything that you want to gather, and all the pipes expand. So my area of expertise was working on pipe expansion, and blocking the pipe expansion was something that was also able to take the heat. And so it was a folded, bent, manipulated kind of thing. But it was filed in both the United States and in Russia. So I have a Russian patent with my name written in Russian, framed and hung on the wall. And it's just kind of cool.
That's pretty neat. So you're an NRA board member. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did that happen?
Well, I retired from engineering, and in my engineering, I did catalytic converters, I did dirty bomb detection, I did sunrooms, solariums, glass, I did manufacturing of military gloves and high heat suits for people that were going into the big silver suit that makes them look like a spaceman, those kinds of things. And so I retired doing aerospace. So my elevator pitch was, I keep airplanes in the sky, right? It kind of has a level of importance. But in 2022, well, there was a shift. I wanted to be involved in some stuff that was happening in the Second Amendment world, and I was doing that on the side. And I had an opportunity to go to New York to be interviewed for Time magazine. And I couldn't because I was doing an aerospace audit. I had an invitation to go to Mar-a-Lago, and I couldn't because I was doing an aerospace audit. And I was like, look, this job thing is getting in the way of interesting, fun things that could make a difference. Come to find out, my friends were on the front cover of Time Life magazine, and I was not.
I've seen it. It's impressive.
It is, and I'm not there. So I was like, look, and then there's a serious level to it. Both of my parents passed away. They had strokes at 58 years old. And I'm looking at this going, genetically, that potentially is a time bomb, right? And so do you want to spend all your time working, or do you want to spend your time making a difference, whatever that difference is? So I decided that 60 years old I was retiring, and so I did. And so now I can reassess, look at it, and say, what's my bucket list? And
you said 60.
60.
You didn't say 50.
I said 60.
Okay, keep going.
So yes. So I am past 60, we'll say. So I reassessed my bucket list and said, I want to take a couple firearms training classes someplace in the country every year. I want to get involved in some not-for-profits. I want to give people who are doing good work a hand up. And I want to be involved with the NRA. And it's been around for 150 years, and I want it to be there for another 150 years. And I think the time is now. It matches my skill sets, my management, my problem solving, all the things I've done in my career. And it kind of all comes together in this thing that it's the perfect storm, the perfect time, and my skills fit the need that the NRA currently has. So I put my documents together in the nomination process for 4 years in a row and was passed over 3 of them. And so somebody was like, well, why don't you just go and get the signatures? And I was like, I'm still at work. So I'm going to try this one more time through the nominating process, and then maybe next year I'll do, if I don't get it, then I'll put in that work, because there was a lot of work to that. And they picked me. So they picked me, got me through the nominating process, and then frankly I think my radio listeners got me through the election, and I did very well for a brand new person running for the board.
Somehow we left that out. Radio. What the hell happened there?
So somewhere between the gun shop, the training in the gun shop, we started answering questions about guns and Ohio's concealed carry and that. So the radio station local to us called us and said, would you like to come in and answer a couple questions? We'd like to do a 20-minute segment. Sure. So we came in, my brother Rob and I went into the station, and our 20-minute segment turned into 3 hours. Then they invited us back a month later, and it was another 3 hours. Then they called us and said, would you like an hour-long show of your own once a month? Sure. So that was September of 2010. By January of 2011, they had moved it to an hour-long show once a week. And then by September of 2018, we were doing 3 hours on one station, we were doing 2 hours on another station, and we got picked up for national syndication.
And you've been doing that for a number of years.
We've been doing that since 2018.
2018. Well, that's remarkable. What's the future hold for Amanda Suffecool?
It's great. I mean, there's so much stuff that can be done. I'm living in the best place, I really think, right now. I mean, I think I'm doing good work. The Second Amendment is in a shift to where I don't think that a lot of the population really understands just what's happening at the Supreme Court level and at the concealed carry level and at the women's shooting clubs level. And so the dynamic within there is shifting fast. And so to be a female that is knowledgeable about manufacturing and about guns and about concealed carry and being able to be articulate and speak in public, it's just a great place to be.
Any parting thoughts?
No, I think I'm good.